Okay, so I'm just gonna start.
Okay.
Are we good? And I'll kind of just look around like it's social media. So Mike, we are here today at the Center for Online and Digital Learning specifically because Veterans Day is coming up.
Yes, it is.
Don't know if you'd heard.
I'd heard a little something about it.
Veterans Day is pretty important, and it is particularly important at Syracuse University and specifically at the College of Professional Studies. So we wanted to share a little bit about that with our viewers and listeners in the social media universe today.
I love that.
I realized I didn't introduce myself, so I will.
Oh.
I'm Liz Green. I'm Executive Director for the Student Experience out of the College of Professional Studies at Syracuse University, and grateful to be joined by the Dean of the College of Professional Studies, Mike Frasciello, and we're just kind of chatting about Veterans Day.
Yeah.
Why do you think, or if you can tell our listeners and viewers, why Veterans Day is particularly important at SU?
So the university has a long history of serving and supporting veterans, and it dates back to, it's a long story. 1918.
We're on a timeline.
We're on a timeline, and I'll try to be brief. 1918, the university had an Army training program that's a precursor to ROTC. And one of the cadets in that program was a young gentleman named William Tolley from Binghamton. Fast forward about 35 or so years, and William Tolley is the chancellor of Syracuse University. And so during toward the end of World War II, Chancellor Tolley and a number of other presidents, university presidents, had been charged by the President of the United States to develop a model for supporting transitioning veterans into higher education. And what evolved from that work was the Servicemen's Readjustment Act of 1945, which today is the GI Bill. And Tolley really transformed the nation, but also Syracuse University. Under the GI Bill that he co-authored, the university accepted just over 11,000 transitioning service members coming off of active duty from the war. The college's role at the time, we were University College, and we were and as we are today, the home college for adult learning and part-time studies. And so the college really served as the on-ramp, doing college prep and high school equivalency before there was GED, to prepare them for success at Syracuse University. So we played a pretty significant role in the university's commitment to supporting veterans. The last thing I think why it's important for the college is when Chancellor Severud joined the university in 2014 and made a recommitment to those who serve, we had previously restarted the Veterans Day ceremony at University College.
Okay.
There wasn't a Veterans Day ceremony
at all at the university.
There was many years ago, but it had just sort of like atrophied and gone away. We restarted that ceremony at Hendricks Chapel, and we ran it for about 4 or 5 years. And then when the Office for Veteran Military Affairs was stood up 10 years ago.
Hard to believe, but yes, yeah.
We transitioned support of that ceremony to OVMA, which is now fantastic. I mean, we attract people from all over Central New York to that. You and I have participated in that. It's fantastic. So anyway, it's really important to us.
And as I've heard you say many times, it's kind of in our DNA.
Yeah.
And what I've heard Vice Chancellor Mike Haney say too is we have a commitment to serve those who have served. So, and we're continuing to do that at the college. Fast forward to maybe 5 years ago, when the College of Professional Studies was launching and continuing to launch online degrees for adult learners, how has serving the military population aligned with what the college has been doing?
Yeah, in a lot of ways. I think we should also note, though, too, for our millions and millions of listeners.
We have a lot of followers.
Millions. That you're currently serving lieutenant in the United States Air Force.
I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Mike is an Air Force veteran.
Mm-hmm. But she outranks me.
I do. It's important to know.
Yes. I think, one thing that we were able to move on. So, we created all of these really fantastic online undergraduate degrees in these programs. And the mission behind that is access to Syracuse University for individuals who can't study here full time. on campus. And then as this institutional goal of being the best place for veterans evolved and really took hold, we realized that our programs degrees weren't accessible to currently serving military members because of the tuition. Even our part-time tuition rate was inaccessible or sort of a barrier to entry. And so one thing we did as a college, as you know, you were in many of those, we'll call them arguments, we'll call them debates. Discussions to permit active duty members, Guard and Reserve, currently serving, to use their tuition assistance benefit to complete their degrees. And so that's currently
$250 a credit hour. Yeah.
So that was significant. And that was like 7 years ago, 6 or 7 years ago.
2019. Yeah, I think it was 2019.
Yeah. And so now we have how many, what percentage of our?
45% of our online population.
Yeah. So I think, we didn't have to prove the point. I think we knew it was going to work, but, if nearly half of our enrolled students are currently serving, I think it speaks to the value and the interest in a Syracuse University education, but it also validates this issue of access, particularly for those students. The other thing too, and you talk a lot about this, the persistence rates of our students. I was thinking about this a few weeks ago, of our persistence rates of our military students. And I read this somewhere, so I can't take credit for it. Members of the military, the United States military, it's the most educated military in the country from a training perspective.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And you know this, right? It's training.
Constant
training mode.
Yes.
And I wonder how that translates to student persistence in our courses.
I actually think that has a huge impact. We hear from our military-connected students that when they're entering the classroom, because of the types of training they've received, which sometimes is complemented by computer-based training. So there's even an online learning part of a lot of what our currently serving military students are experiencing, that adjustment to the online classroom is not as difficult as we might presume it to be, which makes a lot of sense. And they're able to step up in leadership ways in the classroom, one, because of their military training and experience, but two, simply because of that comfort, I'll say, in the online environment that they might not have had 10, 15 years ago, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. You're just reminding me, when I was in the military, there was no CBTs or online stuff. I can remember doing blue books and mail it. You remember the blue books? I'm asking. No.
I have to say, this is a complete sidebar, but I'll share it. My mom is a retired professor at a local college and math professor. And when I was a kid, 10 years old, she would bring home stacks of empty blue books, and I would just draw and color and write in them. So that my exposure to blue books is as a arts and crafts thing.
Yeah.
But you used them in the military.
We did. Yeah. It was kind of correspondence.
Oh, yeah.
That's how they worked.
And,
or you went into a testing facility on base and you had the prompts, the exam, and you wrote in the blue book and you handed it in. There was none of this.
It is all computer-based training now.
Anyway.
But to that point, though, to that point, civilians may not consider the military as actually sort of being at the forefront of a lot of online learning, which is pretty interesting. That's a tendril that I've or a thread that I've kind of pulled on in my dissertation research, and that's a very interesting piece of it.
Yeah, going down a couple rabbit holes here. In the early 2000s, when we were working on it was the precursor to the Center for Online and Digital Learning, this business unit that had come to the university to stand up. We were doing some work with the DoD, particularly the training center, the Air Force Training Center at Shepherd Air Force Base in Wichita Falls, and it had been a few years since it had been developed, but the standard, I think, was called the AIC standard. It was a way to package content in an online course.
Oh, that's interesting.
SCORM is now the new or the current most familiar model of packaging content, so it could be transformed.
We may lose our listeners on SCORM.
Yeah, blah, this is my blah, blah, blah. But I wanted to go back to see what happens. the comment about students, military students in the classrooms.
Yes.
So I know we do a lot of training to prepare our faculty and our advisors and staff
Yes.
to understand military culture and those students. And I've often wondered, and I've taught, the classes I've taught where I've had military connected students in the classroom, stopped being surprised by their sort of cultural competency.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
If that's a way to put that. Is that something you've seen, or is that something the advisors see as opposed to, adults generally, I think, adult learners come into the classroom with a greater degree, but I've always been continue to be impressed by the type of cultural competence that our military connected students bring into the classroom.
I absolutely think that's true. A student veteran or a currently serving student has been exposed to such a wide variety of people and backgrounds and personalities and rank and all over the country and all over the world potentially. So yes, I absolutely think that there's a layer of what you said. I think cultural competence is a good way to put it, and a way to demonstrate inclusion in the classroom that we might not think about in that way. Inclusion of experience is kind of a piece of that. And, a military member is used to being on a team and don't leave anyone on the team behind. So I think that perspective translates into the classroom too. We actually hear from our civilian students that how much they learn from their military peers in the classroom. So I think it all is related to what you're saying.
Yeah. I think we've got something special happening at the college with regard to the number of military students that we're supporting. I know we had that panel discussion last week. Was it last week?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, that was really well attended, and you sat on a panel and were sharing some perspective on deficit thinking.
Yeah.
And maybe say a couple things
because
it's
not
important.
Go off on a whole tangent about that, but no,
it's important.
It is.
And I think it helps to reframe not only our support for military students, but adult learners generally. And
Sure.
I know we've talked about this as it relates to your dissertation. But.
Well, I think it's important to remember that the military connected student is a subset of the adult learner. This is a different type of life experience that is not a traditional 17 or 18-year-old graduating from high school and coming to college. It's just not that experience. When we think about adult learners, I view military-connected students as kind of a subset of that population. And, unfortunately, for better or for worse, I think practitioners in the higher education space and faculty often see the adult learner, and I'll lump the military-connected learner into this, as being less than.
Right.
Frankly, not being able to coming at their student experience from what they can't do versus what they can do. And I think that's the deficit piece that our work at the college, and I think the university's work in this space, has been trying to reframe that deficit narrative. Sure, a currently serving military student has a lot going on. Of course they do. But they also understand structure and they understand priorities and commitments. And so let's help them embrace their educational experience from what they can bring to it as opposed to what they can't.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm encouraged by that that conversation sort of being surfaced now, particularly from the panel the other day.
Yeah, I was too. Yeah.
And lots of interest on the part of at least the folks that attended and the faculty that were there. And it's where I think it'll be useful, moving forward. So as the university continues to evolve, as higher education, I think, continues to evolve, and universities like Syracuse begin to intentionally become more accessible to adult learners, be they full-time or part-time learners. I think reorienting faculty to what that means, that adult students are coming into the classroom with competencies and skills and perspectives that they can actually lean into. When we do this thing with our faculty, try to orient them to this concept of, not the concept, but the teaching method of andragogy versus pedagogy, and how that translates to co-teaching, basically bringing the student into the space to sort of co-teach or co-lead. So
absolutely. It's funny that you bring up the panel, because related to all that, one of the faculty members on this particular panel that I had the privilege of sitting on last week, I was so impressed by his perspective that 5 years ago he had never taught a military-connected student.
Oh, right.
He had no awareness, frankly, of military-connected students. And based on the role that he was hired into, he was overnight kind of thrust into, I'm teaching and supporting a cohort of active duty students. And I loved how he was so, frankly, humble in his, like, I knew nothing. They taught me. I had to learn and look at how much more enriching this is based on what I've learned and what they can bring. So that kind of perspective, rather than, oh, they're a student veteran and there might be a myth or stereotype about that and their experiences, rather than going down that rabbit hole, going down the what can I learn from you rabbit hole is where I hope that even more of our faculty and staff in the higher education space writ large can kind of move into.
Yeah, I think we have. I think we have an opportunity to be leaders in the space. You know, as 2 years ago we had the summit here. The Vice Chancellor Haney brought a summit to campus where leaders from like 12 major universities in the country came together to start to sort of ideate on what the true partnership between higher education and the military look like, beyond having programs that use the GI Bill and you can use your TA rate. Like, what does full cooperation and support look like? And I'm excited by where the college can be helpful to the university as it positions to that.
I agree. Let me ask you one more question as we kind of wrap up our conversation here. So I obviously sort of live and breathe our work directly with our students and our advisors, but you as the dean have a broader perspective and kind of seeing the broad operations of the college. So from your perspective, what do you think are the biggest things that set the College of Professional Studies apart in terms of how we support our military-connected students?
You make broad assumptions that I have all of this vast knowledge.
He does.
I think a couple things, and you know this about me. Others know this about me. I'm a history geek. I love the history of this university, this magnificent university that we work for. This little gem, this magical little thing called the College of Professional Studies. A year or two ago, I was working through the archives, reading through the archives, and it was before a Veterans Day thing. We were pulling some stories together, and I started to realize that of the 8 deans that the college has had, the college was chartered in 1947. Of the 8 deans, 5 are prior military.
Wow.
5. 6, if you count Dr. Blair Knapp, who is the acting director of the school that became the college.
I think that counts.
Okay,
let's count it. So 6.
6 of 9.
6 of 9?
6 of 9, because we'll add him to the...
Okay.
But that's pretty significant.
I would say so.
Not that there's bragging rights, but there's bragging rights. Like, I'm pretty confident that there isn't another school within, or college within Syracuse University that has had that many prior military members serve as dean. And, it's more than just sort of this number or this count. That, I think, goes back to your comment about it being part of our DNA.
Which is your comment.
Is it?
I just copy it.
Okay.
Hope that's okay.
Trademark it. I think there's, these are the sort of the organizational themes or commitments and cultures. The college, I'll say it, and I do believe it, the College of Professional Studies is the most mission-oriented college within the university. I think we have to be. And I think it'd be sort of silly to assume that mission orientation isn't what attracts or attracted many of these prior service members to the college that then became dean to serve as dean. But it also sort of embeds itself in the way that as a college collectively we sort of orient ourselves toward our work. And I just think there's great alignment there. Are we over? Because I want to share a real quick story.
I think you can share a quick story.
Okay.
Yeah. As long as it's not too long.
well, that's asking a lot from me. One of those deans, he was the third prior military, third, Dr. Frank Funk. Yeah, not only does he have a great name.
It is a great name.
Dr. Funk and then Dean Funk. Like, I think that in and of itself makes this guy just extraordinary. Longest serving dean at the college, 18 years.
Wow.
He served in World War II on a bomber in the Army Air Corps, and his plane was shot down over Czechoslovakia about toward the middle part of the war, and he spent the rest of the war in a POW camp. After the war, he came to Syracuse University and finished a degree in communications, speech communications, on the GI Bill that Chancellor Tolley wrote.
Wow.
And then he went off and finished a master's and a PhD at Purdue, and then came back to teach here in speech communication, and then ultimately became the dean of the college.
That's incredible.
And served for 18 years.
The longest
serving dean at the college, 18 years. So I share that only to say, like, you can't serve in a leadership role for 18 years and not have an impact on it. And no, he was, I think he retired or left as dean in like 1978. That's a long, long time ago. And yet, I think if there's those of us that can sort of recall the impact that somebody like him actually had, I'd like to believe that a lot of that gets carried forward.
I can say it from my experience, having worked for the college for 8 years now, it absolutely has carried forward. It is a mission-oriented organization.
Yeah.
I think you should write a book.
I have two that I'm working on. One's called Deaning for Dummies.
Oh, okay.
I don't think that's going to track very well. But the other is...
the other is about the history.
It's a history,
okay.
Yeah. And
I think this is a whole... We could go on a whole book tour. Okay,
we got to write the thing first,
Yeah,
and then people have to be interested in it. But yeah. So,
last thing, and then we'll wrap up. Are you running in the Veterans Day 5K this year?
I do a thing that some people call running. So yes, are you running?
I am running in the Veterans Day. So the university hosts a fun run, a 5K at 6:30 a.m. on Veterans Day. I think this is at least the 5th year, probably more.
You and I have run it.
Probably more.
Run it together for a couple years now.
I run faster. Yes, I did register. I look forward to it.
Yeah, I gave up trying to keep up with anybody, actually. So, yeah, it's fantastic. You get out there with ROTC and all of these, everyone. Cassie from CODL ran last year.
She did, yeah.
Lots of folks show up and run. You don't have to be veteran or military connected.
It's a community event.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's super fun.
It's
super fun.
It's fun. Yeah, I'm sucking wind after running 3 miles.
It's going to be a beautiful, likely rainy morning.
Cold and icy and raining sideways. The best part, and we didn't do this last year, and I hope we do it. Maybe I'll just ask Ron Novak to see if he can do this. We all line up on the stairs of Hendricks to take the picture. And like for a couple of years, remember they'd say, okay, on 3, go orange.
Oh, we didn't do that last year?
We didn't do it. And it because it's like early in the morning and the sun's coming up and it echoes across the quad.
That's cool.
It's pretty.
We should definitely do that.
It's pretty cool. I just gave myself goosebumps. It's pretty cool. But we didn't do it last year. I was kind of like,
Well, on that note, we will wrap up for today. Yeah. We want to thank all of our military connected students for their service, and we look forward to continuing to support their educational journeys. Thank you for chatting today. This is obviously going to go viral. So
I think so. And thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service. Go Orange.
Go Orange.